So, non-fungible tokens, why should we care? Well, if you take a look, in the last quarter, the transactions, the value of the transactions dealing with NFTs exceeded expectations by a long shot. There was $2.4 billion worth of transactions involving non-fungible tokens in Q2. Dapper Labs, who if you know anything about NFTs, you'll probably have heard of them. They're the platform behind CryptoKitties and NBA Top Shots. They just finished a funding round and they're now valued at $7.6 billion and they were only founded in 2018. OpenSea, NFT marketplace, they're now valued at $1.5 billion. This is a piece of art from an artist called Beeple. It sold through Christie's auctions for $69 million earlier in the year. And interestingly, I like this one. This is Axie Infinity, and this is kind of play to earn game, where actually in game you're working with NFTs. So we'll talk a bit more about that later. Okay, so what is an NFT, right? Wikipedia, of course, best place to start. A non-fungible token is a unit of data stored in a digital ledger called a blockchain that certifies a digital asset to be unique and therefore not interchangeable. Answer all your questions? No, probably not. So let's look at what fungibility is, right? What does fungible mean? So fungible, being of such nature or kind as to be freely exchangeable or replaceable in whole or in part for another of like or nature or kind. Still no further ahead, right? So you know fungible, you just don't know the word. Here's some examples, right? A $10 or £10 note, that's fungible. And it's fungible because it's exchangeable for another £10 or $10 note. There's no difference in value, right? They're directly exchangeable. Semi-fungible, tickets for a concert. They're semi-fungible, they're not directly exchangeable for one another because they're different values, right? So my ticket in the luxury box is more expensive than yours at the back behind the pole where you can't see anything, right? So there we call those semi-fungible. And then non-fungible is where it's truly unique. So think of a piece of art, right, like the Mona Lisa. And I'm going to talk a bit more about the Mona Lisa in a while. Okay, so fungibility applies to both tangible and non-tangible assets. So if you take a look here, oil and gold, right, they're fungible and they're tangible. You can touch them, you can feel them, and you exchange them. One barrel of oil is the same as another barrel of oil. Then you also have non-tangible, right, fungible assets, right, like Bitcoin. Or a carbon credit. Like, what's a carbon credit? You can't touch it, you can't feel it, just someone gave it to you and you can exchange it for something or offset your carbon footprint. Then on the tangible side, on non-fungible, a piece of art like the Mona Lisa or your house. You can't swap your house easily with someone, right, for another house, right? It's non-fungible. And then on the intangible side, we have these tokens, right? So it might be something that you know well, like copyright, you know, your right to read or watch or listen to something. Or it could be one of these kind of funky non-fungible tokens. Anybody know what this guy is? He's a crypto kitty, right? Founded by Dapper Labs, and we'll talk a little bit more about him in a moment. Or her, I think. Okay, so 3 things to think about when you're talking about non-fungible tokens. These 3 important concepts. Number 1 is ownership. Number 2, uniqueness or authenticity. And number 3, scarcity. So the best way to think about it is think of the Mona Lisa, right? So ownership, who owns it, right? It's important who owns it because you've got the value. In the case of the Mona Lisa, obviously it's actually the French Republic itself, even though it's on permanent display in the Louvre. If I own it, do I actually own the real one, right? So is it unique? Is it authentic? Or have I got a fake? And then finally, scarcity. So how many of them are there? Like if Da Vinci painted 10 Mona Lisas, they wouldn't be as valuable as the one that's there. So it's easy to kind of reason about that when you're talking about a physical asset. If you're talking about non-physical or an intangible asset, the same 3 concepts apply. So ownership, uniqueness or authenticity, and scarcity, but how you achieve it is different. And that's why blockchain has become the vehicle that has resulted in the sort of proliferation of these non-fungible tokens, because blockchain's good at this stuff. So the provenance and the ownership from the creator of the content or the token right through the distributor, through to the end user, the collector or whoever it may be, the buyer, the seller, fully transparent and fully auditable on the immutable ledger that's core to blockchain. You own it if you can transfer it, right? That's the definition in non-fungible tokens, right? It's in your wallet. you have the private key. So if you have the ability to transfer it, then you own it. You'll hear people talking in crypto world, about whether you manage your own private keys or you use an exchange like Coinbase. Your keys, your money, their keys, their money, right? Word of caution. Okay, uniqueness then on the blockchain. So uniqueness is a combination, is achieved in NFTs through a combination of good old-fashioned cryptography, right? Digital hashes or fingerprints of a digital item, and the blockchain, because you're inserting that digital thumbprint into a blockchain record and therefore creating the link between the token and the actual content itself. And then finally, on the scarcity front, so blockchain technology makes it possible for you to manage the number of tokens that you issue. If you were going to represent the Mona Lisa, you'd only create one token because there is only one of it. Think of a digital print where there's, 50 copies. You would have number 17 of 50. So you decide how many tokens you want to issue, and that is locked then on the chain. Okay, so let's take a little bit of a closer look, and I'm going to look at it from two viewpoints. One is from the creator, and the other is the owner. So from the creator perspective, you start on the right. So you create some content. Maybe it's an image, maybe it's a movie clip, right? And you'd be surprised at some of the things that are sold. They're mostly images and movie clips, these NFTs right now. So you create some content. You then generate some metadata about that content. What type is it, how many of them are going to be issued, etc. And you call that your metadata, and you create in your metadata a cryptographic link to the content. So you take a fingerprint or a thumbprint of your content and you store it in the metadata, and then you issue one or more tokens that contain that metadata. Okay, so working from right to left. If I'm the owner of the token, I can actually check the token. I can easily look at the metadata that's associated with that token because it's fully transparent, it's on the chain. And I can check that metadata cryptographically links to the content. So I can be sure that I own the right thing, and I can tell how many of them there are because it's all stored in the metadata on this immutable ledger. If, like me, you prefer diagrams, you'll be able to kind of see how this works. So you have content providers who are issuing these NFTs that correspond to some sort of media, right, which doesn't get stored on the blockchain, by the way. Blockchain is terrible for storing large files. It's good for transactions, it's good for tokens. So you store it off-chain and you reference it with this cryptographic hash. And then, of course, as the content provider, you sell them or you give them away to your users, and then your users, of course, own them, and they can subsequently sell and transfer them. And all of this is achieved through blockchain transactions. Okay, everything I've talked about so far has been in reference to what we call static tokens. And the focus has been on ownership and authenticity and scarcity. But these NFTs, like the Beppel piece of artwork, they don't have any behavior, right? This guy does. So she's a crypto kitty. Her name's Dragon, okay, interesting. She's got chestnut colored eyes, her base color is cotton candy, so these are attributes. There are hundreds of thousands of these guys, and lots of different versions of crypto kitties as well. And she was sold for 600 Ethereum, which is 1.3 million pounds. I've no idea why, don't ask, it's just supply and demand. But what's really interesting about this kind of NFT is she's got behavior, right? She's got a mom and a dad, and she's got a mom and a dad because crypto kitties can be bred, right? So it's not like a static token, it's a token that has code behind it, it has behavior. So I can interact with this crypto kitty. I can put it up for, it's called siring. So you can breed them, and you find other cats or other people who have cats that want to breed. And she has offspring, and the offspring have some of her characteristics and some of the other parents' characteristics, right? It's totally stupid, I know, it's totally weird, seems very, very strange to most people, but think about the opportunity. So these things have behavior, and it's driven by code, and we all know you can do anything with code. So the future of these NFTs is going to be in-game. They'll have behavior, gone are the kind of just simple skin or weapon inside your game. These things will be tradable, and they'll grow and evolve as you use your games. Okay, so I'm going to finish on this. The question is, how do I get involved, right? So how you get involved depends on what your role is. Are you a creator? Are you a collector? Are you an investor? Or are you a developer? This is the ecosystem, the non-fungible token, thanks to Block Research. And as you can see, there's everything from marketplaces to platforms to gaming studios to infrastructure. So you could go out there today, go to OpenSea platform, create your own, mint your own non-fungible token with a picture of yourself or whatever you like and put it up for auction. You can do it in 5 minutes. It's unlikely to earn you $69 million, but you can go for it. Thanks very much.